Looks like oh.
It looks like we might be live. It looks like we're live on YouTube, but not Facebook yet.
Hello, YouTube!
Hi, Michael. How are you today?
I'm not Michael. My name is Billy Bob Joe.
Well, Billy Bob Joe, how are you today?
Well, I'm good. But I've just gotten very bad because you called me Billy Bob Joe and not just my Billy.
Oh, no.
My actual name is Billy. My middle name is Bob, and my last name is Joe. So, yeah.
And I think I call you crazy.
What do you mean I'm kitty kitty pie?
You're what?
You've been talking to Uncle Jack too much. All right, guys. Today we are doing 5 ridiculous things we did to get out of debt and save money.
Like dumpster diving.
You
Hop up, dude.
gotta scoot out of debt.
Whoa! Why can't I be the...
Hit.
Move.
Why can't I be the...
You got 3 seconds.
I can't. I'm sorry.
All
Sorry,
right.
I'm trying to make sure we're actually going here. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, well, somebody's saying us here.
The world is good because Mike is here. Just kidding. The world is good because Tara's here. Hello from South Philadelphia. Hi, Bookstore people, too.
Hello, everyone.
Love
okay.
the hats. Yay.
Thanks, guys. I couldn't resist.
I
thought since we're doing an outrageous show, we would have outrageous hats. How's that?
Woohoo.
All right. Today we're doing 5 outrageous things we did to save money and get out of debt.
Oh, those Living on Time people are on.
Now, I know, aren't they cool?
Yes. I love watching that show.
I think we should switch hats.
I watch every minute of it every time it's on.
Here. Let's try that. Let's see. Does that look better? That looks
You tell
better.
me.
I don't know. I can't see us.
I have to have the pout.
The pout?
What is it that Tommy calls it? Oh, these things just keep popping in front of me. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
There.
You don't know the pout, the simmer, is that what he calls it?
Oh. Don't give him any more ammunition.
He'll get the show and he'll go through it looking for that frame.
He will. Nobody tell Tommy, guys. Nobody tell Tommy. All right.
Hi, everyone.
So let me make a quick announcement here real quick. If you go to our Living on a Dime store, you will notice that our books are no longer back ordered. Yeah. So, Michael...
I are a college graduate. That's all I have to say.
Our bookkeeping...
When you ask about college, this is the example.
Our bookkeeping department made a fairly large 1,000-book error.
Oops.
And
so we weren't 200 books short.
So we weren't 200 books short. So
the good news is everyone who ordered gets it.
So if you ordered your book for any of our sales, you will get it. The bad news is we ended our sale early. So we're sorry if you didn't get it, but yeah. So, all right, guys. 5 outrageous things we did to save money. Why are you sitting on cough drops?
I just didn't want them to be on the table.
Oh. All right. So, what...
Everyone's loving the hats, dear. Somebody wanted to know where
guys.
you got them.
I got them at Walmart. I couldn't resist. I actually paid full price for them. I couldn't believe I actually did that, but I just thought we needed them.
Are they actually tree skirts?
No, they're actually a hat.
Nice.
Everyone is not feeling well. Actually, Dave has spent most of the day in bed. I don't know that he's ever spent the day in bed when he's been sick, but he actually spent the day in bed, so he's feeling pretty bad.
Sorry, Mike's got to get the glasses out. Daria is asking, can we still order a book? There are
Yes.
books for sale on the store.
The 20th anniversary edition right here is for sale, and we have them in stock, okay? And we hope to have all of our sale orders out by Monday. We have Izzy, BJ's girlfriend, helping us out pack. Yell hi, Izzy.
Hi.
Yell louder.
Hi.
There you go. She's over there packing for us. She's in between jobs at the moment, so I'm like, I'll give you a job.
She's like, no!
Like, never again. Okay, so we do have books, guys. You ready? Get on this show?
Sure.
Okay, 5 outrageous
So we've done
things.
outrageous things before?
Well, here's the thing. We don't really see them as outrageous. People have commented to us that they're outrageous, but we didn't really see them as outrageous. So the first thing we did was, not the first, but the number one thing we did was we dumpster dive, and we are proud. We will say it loud and say it proud. We are dumpster divers.
Yes. Yes!
We believe there are great treasures in the dumpster to be found.
Well, and one thing about a lot of the things that Tara's going to talk about, or that we're going to maybe talk about, is a lot of the times we were started doing a lot of this stuff, we had absolutely no money at all. And it allowed us to live a lot better. But the funny thing on the dumpster diving is we'll have to explain because it's not what you think. Mm-hmm. It's not like we're going in trash cans behind restaurants and getting food. I've seen people do that. We don't do that.
We should, though.
No.
It would save on our grocery bill.
See, Mike draws the line there. That's the point where Mike.
We should do that. Would
or
save
money.
on our grocery bill.
Hey,
Okay.
Mom.
What?
Yeah, we found an old speaker that still works. That was perfectly fine, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, we found an old speaker. The boys put it on their Wii. And so they have surround sound speakers,
It's not
something
surround sound speakers.
It's like a huge bar
with
speakers on it.
It's something special.
It's mono. That's not very
Okay,
special.
sorry.
Jack.
Well, it's something impressive. Because the guy that we were pulling it out of his dumpster, he said he paid something like $300 for the thing. I was like, and you're throwing it away? It was crazy.
I mean, it did look pretty bad, but it works.
It's looking a lot better now.
Love for boys. Oh, Heidi says, please don't say you wash baggies. We do wash baggies.
She likes to wash baggies.
It's not on my list, though.
I don't wash them unless I leave them there for a few days and she doesn't get them done. I'll wash everything else, but I don't like the baggies. Go ahead.
All right. So what are some things that we found out of the dumpster? We have found
lots of good stuff.
A rocking chair for when BJ was a baby. We dumpster dive a rocking chair.
Brand new.
Brand new. It didn't have one screw, and the people threw it away because they didn't want to get the screw to fix it.
It was like had the box, and all the pieces were together and was halfway assembled.
Yep. So we got a rocking chair. That rocking chair we used for 2 years with BJ and Ellie. And then we sold it at a garage sale with a whole bunch of other dumpster dive stuff for $40. For $40. We have found tons and tons and tons of gardening stuff. I have found perlite. We outlined our whole house with bricks that we had found in the dumpster for gardens because we didn't have enough money for garden edging. So we took used bricks and outlined our whole garden. We did that on 2 different houses.
Oh, man. And they were from a house that had been taken down, so they were aged-looking bricks that made a really cool, antique-looking garden.
Yeah. We,
In those days, we were pretty low on money, so we were always looking for ways to save. And
Mike was making $6 an hour at that point with 2 kids. So just to put it in perspective.
One day
or one kid. That was before Ellie, wasn't it? $6 an hour
the
with one
$6
kid.
was at the county. That was before the kids.
Yeah, but BJ was.
Okay.
Wasn't he born at the county?
He was born when I was at EDP.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay. But one time we had our oven stopped working, and Tar said it only goes to like half the temperature. And I realized there were 2 filaments in there, and one of them was dead. And we're like, oh no, what are we going to do? Well, we went down to the dumpster looking around because we maybe could back up and tell the story of how we found out about it. But anyway, there was a stove there, and I just took one of the filaments out of it, and I discovered it worked. So we were able to get the oven fixed for free. Mm-hmm. And it was easy. It was like 2 screws.
Yep. So let's see. What else have we gotten? We got a whole bunch of kids' clothes and books that we sold at a garage sale, and some toys at that same garage sale. We dumpster dived. So
lots of gardening stuff.
Yeah. And one of the things that we did was when we moved into this house, we got sod for almost our entire backyard. And we have one of the largest yards. We probably have, 1,400 square feet probably of sod area?
Well, let's see. The property is 11,000 square feet, and the base is 1,400, and the driveway is about the same. So, And then you have gardens on the side. So we
I'd
probably have
say-
6,000. We probably have 6,000 or 7,000.
Of grass?
Yeah. I would, well, in the
You
back.
think our old house would sit in grass in the
Just
back?
in the back.
I don't know. I would say 1,500 to 2,000 square feet is what I think it's probably estimated at, but I don't know. So anyway, we dumpster dived all of the sod for that as they were building the houses around us. Each night we would go to the dumpster and see what they had thrown away, and it finally got to the point where and we did ask the builder. They were okay with it. They were happy for us to do that because we also took a whole bunch of wood and we built our entire shed that would have cost us, I think we figured it would cost us $10,000 if we would have got it at Home Depot.
It's a nice shed.
And it cost us like $200, $250. And
all of it was dumpster stuff except the roof, and the roof we bought, the materials, and I put it on. And the siding we bought at a reclamation place for like a fraction of the price.
We
concrete was free.
Yeah, we took and would go each night and dig out of the dumpster wood for the shed and sod for the yard. And there are some pieces that we put down for the yard that were like this big. So we're not talking rolls here. We're talking small pieces. And we were patching with little tiny pieces sometimes. But we got everything. How many rolls did your brother give us?
I think like 20 or something like that.
So we bought 20 rolls of sod for $1 each, and everything else was free. What else have we gotten out of the dumpster? So we got all the wood for our shed. We have gotten furniture.
We got Paralite that was brand new in bags. That's gardening
Tons
stuff.
and tons of stuff.
A lot of buckets for gardening.
A lot of wood for our fireplace. When we lived in Idaho, we dumpster dived tons and tons of wood for our fireplace.
Oh, there was a burn pile down the street from us, and people just take all their tree stuff and throw it down there. So I just go down there with a saw and cut it up, and we drag it back.
We've gotten doors, so like, oh, turn around so they can see my decoration. So we got this door here that Mike's going to show you for free. It's an old 1920s door, I think. Ignore the fact that Dave's picture fell down. We dumpster dived that. We dumpster dived a whole bunch of windows. Isn't that cute? See, I have all 5 kids in there. Okay, that's good. We did a whole bunch of windows that I use for decorations around the house to put pictures in. I use them outside for my garden, that kind of thing.
I don't even remember everything because some of the stuff that I consider like dumpster diving wasn't. Like all the wood chips we would get at the border.
Yeah, go. You can tell them that story if you want.
So when we lived in Idaho, I would drive across the border to Washington for work, and at that time, there was a border. I would drive across the border, and then you go down this big hill, and there was a weigh station, and the trucks didn't want to have to pay tax on the load of wood chips that were left in the truck. So they would dump them next to the side of the road, and I noticed them. I would drive by all the time. So one day I stopped the car. There was a farmhouse across the street, and I walked over there and said, "Hey, do you know whose property that is and what that is there for? I didn't know if that's like disposed, if somebody's throwing that away or what." And they said, "Yeah, we're the farmers that own that property, and it just really irritates us that these truckers just dump their stuff right on the edge of our property." So I said, "Well, you mind if I, start hauling it away?" And they said, "Sure." So I'd put a big tarp in the trunk of the car, and every day when I drive up there, I'd come back and I would fill it up with wood chips.
Yeah.
And the tarp kept it from getting too messy in the trunk.
So here's a few rules of dumpster diving. If, like when it was the builders here, if they say you can't do it, then we don't. But like the builders here, we saw the builder outside and we asked him if we could. He was fine. Our neighbor one time, my friend Jamie was over. We saw he was filling a dumpster full of his stuff because he was moving. We asked him. Most people are more than happy to have you dumpster dive. They are thrilled for you to take it and reuse it. Most people want to reuse the stuff, but they just don't have the time or whatever to take it to someplace like the thrift store or whatever. Like my neighbor was moving and they didn't have time.
We found an antique oil lamp in the dumpster. It was like it was not even damaged at all.
Yeah. The other thing is be careful. Wear shoes if you get inside the dumpster. We try not to get inside the dumpster too often. We did it with the sod and the boards, but just be careful and wear good heavy shoes and long pants and long sleeves, that kind of thing. So hopefully you won't get cut or anything in case there's something there.
Glass is a
Yeah.
problem, yeah.
So just be a little bit of cautious. But dumpster diving is best. The best dumpster diving we've ever found is in college towns. Those college students don't have to pay for anything, so it means absolutely nothing to them because mom and dad paid for it, so they just throw it all away. You can get really nice beds, you can get couches, you can get chairs, you can get everything in a college town. We got blenders, all kinds of stuff.
So I used to work at Washington State University, and the University of Idaho is across the border. And I had a friend there that was quite a bit older than me, and she said she used to call the dumpsters the blues store.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, when it's getting close to the end of the semester, you can get a lot of good shopping at the blues store. Mm-hmm. And there would be microwaves and coffee makers and TVs, and they all worked. Just mom and dad bought them, and kids going home for the summer and doesn't want to have to figure out how to get it there, and they just throw it away. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah.
And funny, in case you're thinking, first of all, I avoid things with gooey.
Jonathan?
No, with food and gooey things. But just in case you're wondering, we used to have in this one town, people would say, I can't believe you go take stuff out of the dumpster and all this. But we filled up our shed, because we had no money. Filled up our shed with a lot of things that were good, and they were in great condition, but we just didn't need them. And when they got full, we sold them, and the same people came and bought them from us.
Yeah.
So that was very satisfying.
So dumpster diving, that's apparently an outrageous thing that we do. We didn't know until we moved to the suburbs, and people were horrified when they saw us dumpster diving, and they were like, what are you doing? We're like, we're not letting good stuff go to waste. So it was pretty funny.
And the builder told us here, he didn't care if we take stuff as long as we don't add stuff, because he has to pay by the weight.
Yeah. Number 2, an outrageous thing we did to save money. We actually paid someone a check, $8,000, to buy our house in Idaho from us.
Ouch. That was painful.
And Mike was unemployed. No, you weren't unemployed. Then you were working at the county, weren't you? Yeah. So then you were making like, money. What, $9 an hour. So.
Working in a county government office. Yeah.
So what happened was we moved to Timbuktu, Idaho, a little teensy tiny town called Nez Perce next to Lewiston in Idaho for those Idahoans out there.
Because you have to live within about 30 miles to know where Nez Perce is.
Yeah, most people don't know where Nez Perce is. But we lived in a little teensy tiny town. And let me tell you, these towns are not like the Hallmark movies. I don't care what Hallmark says, they are not like the Hallmark movies. There's a reason why they're a Hallmark movie, because those towns don't exist in this world we know we have tried. So.
But it was still a decent place to live while we were there, wasn't it? So, found out something new.
Mike lives with rose-colored glasses.
Well, I didn't think it was the most spectacular
My
place,
glasses are sparkly clean, and I see the way.
I had good memories there.
So
and bandana grandma says she says you have nice grass in your yard. So yeah.
Thank you.
The grass that we got.
We do.
We forgot one part about that story. The grass. So sorry, hate to back up, but I'm going to back up real quick to the grass story. We were looking for wood, and we discovered there was sod in the trash, and a lot of it was really big pieces, well, somewhat big pieces, but a lot of it was tiny pieces. And I think one day there were guys doing sod, and they saw us, and I think I talked to them, and they said, oh, hey, if you bring your truck over to where we're working, we'll just throw it in your truck instead of in the dumpster. And then pretty soon they come over to the house, and they say, hey, if you don't mind us taking your truck over to that house over there, we'll take it to all the houses we're going to today. And pretty soon they were bringing grass from...
So we would give the construction workers the keys to our truck to move it to each house.
They were nice, and we made friends with them. And so then one day they even came from another job that they were doing on the way home and dropped some off with us. So It's funny because not just doing it yourself, but sometimes when people think, wow, because those guys are like, this is cool that these people are actually trying to do the whole yard with this grass.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Des, are you saying you're going to move back to Nez Perce? Wow, I didn't even know anybody knew where that was.
Where's Des?
Okay, so back...
No, she said Spokane.
Oh, yeah, we had actually looked to move back to Spokane.
It's nice.
in our most recent wanting to move. The problem is the taxes are so high there, and we want to have our house paid off and not have to pay $5,000 or $10,000 a year in taxes when we get it paid off. So that's our biggest problem with moving back to Spokane. And we had looked across the border in Idaho, but we haven't found any houses yet up there that were what we were needing. Okay, so back to paying someone $8,000 to buy our house when we lived in Idaho. So we had our house on the market for 3 years. Mike had gotten a job. We lived in Nez Perce, Idaho. He got a job in Pullman, Washington at the university, 100 miles away. So it was a 100-mile commute each way.
Actually, that's a crazy thing we did.
He was staying the night 3 nights a week, up there 4 days, spent the night 3 nights a week, and had an apartment, and then would be home 3 days and 4 nights. And finally, it got to the point where we kept trying to sell our house so we could move up to Pullman. We couldn't get it sold, Finally, Mike, we live in Colorado now, Becky. Mike got laid off from his job, and he could not find any work around there.
The university was the only employer of that level.
Yeah. And and even then he was making $15 an hour. So, we were making what, $30,000 a year, even at that, and spending 2 house payments. So
right at the end, I was at 37. It kind of went up pretty quick, but it started at 30.
Okay,
which is $15 an hour. 37 is more like almost 20.
So, at the same time, my brother had a root canal, and the infection got into his bloodstream, and he became paralyzed. And he had just torn down every wall in his house to remodel his house, and he had to have this emergency root canal, and this happened. Well, we thought, okay, we've got 2 kids. They're not in school. There's nothing to keep us from moving. So we decided to move back to Kansas to help my brother and sister-in-law for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And we ended up there 11 years. But we went back and decided to help him. Well, we were paying $500 a month for rent. We were paying $400 for our mortgage and the upkeep of our house in Idaho. So we were paying $900 a month out of Mike's $9 an hour job. I think he was getting like $1,500 a month. And we had 2 kids, and
it was killing us.
It was really, really hard. So finally we talked to a kind of a Christian financial guy, and he said, you just have to dump the house in Idaho. We're like, but we're going to lose all that money. He said, I know, but in the long run, it's going to cost you probably that much.
Well, so he drew a thing on the board, on a whiteboard, and said, this is how much you're losing, and how much you're losing a month, and over 2 or 3 years is going to be this much. And he was saying, if you just pay it now, you can cut your loss and say, this is the total amount we're going to have to pay. But if you keep paying on it for more months, you're going to lose that, and then you're probably still going to have to sell it for a loss. And it kind of made sense to us when he explained it that way.
So finally, we told the realtor we'll just take whatever offer we can get. We paid $27,000 for the house. We sold it for $18,000. And then we also had to pay all the realtor fees and everything on top of that. So we ended up having, at closing, to write a check for $8,000 to someone else to buy our house. And we got the money by getting a 0% credit card, taking it off of our credit card and taking a 0% loan off of that. So that really hurt. And most people, honestly, looking back on it now, we should have just claimed bankruptcy. It probably would have been a lot better for us financially if we would have just claimed bankruptcy. But we had started living on a dime, And I was like, I can't be teaching people about finances and how to save money and get out of debt and me be claiming bankruptcy. When what it boiled down to was Mike just wasn't earning enough money.
Yep.
And there is a point where you have to just earn more money, period, to get yourself out of these things. And we did dig ourselves out and got out of it and got it paid off. But for some of these things, you do have to just earn more money.
Well, and that's kind of why we were going to move back to Colorado, and the jobs weren't calling. And then we moved back to Kansas. And after we were there for a little bit, then the places in Colorado called. But we were thinking, we're already here. And then we moved closer to Tara's brother because we were too far away to really be helping with the house. But I ended up getting a job at the PBS station there, which paid like 80% more than I was making in the little town we were in, Manhattan, Kansas. So we moved to Wichita, where I was making more money and where the cost of the housing was a lot less. So I think financially that was a good call, because we were trying to figure out how to raise the income and lower the expenses. So.
Yep. All right, next thing, what did we do? We ate meat, the number 3 outrageous thing that we did. When we were still in Idaho and we had first moved there, we did not have a refrigerator. And so we had to put all of our meat, all of our refrigerator stuff in a cooler outside in our shed in the winter. And we moved there in January. We got there, we had no refrigerator in the house that we were renting. Mike did not have a job.
Annika says shalom from
Annika.
Jerusalem.
Hello.
Happy Hanukkah, Annika.
And so what happened was one day we left the door open and we didn't realize it, and a cat got into the shed and started eating on our one piece of round steak that we had. So what we did was we cut off the cat part and ate the rest of it. I know, we actually did.
We didn't eat the part the cat actually bit.
No.
But even if we cooked it, it might have been all right, but we weren't going to take that chance.
Yeah.
But we were like, we're not throwing away the whole thing because the cat got a piece of it, because that was a
so
big
we
part
tell
of our
people
income.
that story and they're like, oh, that's gross. But the cat only got the one part. The other part was still in the package. And we didn't have the money to throw it away. It was literally, we're going to eat this or we're not going to eat, because we just did not have the money. And so that was probably the worst as far as food. That was almost as bad as dumpster diving food, actually. It would be, I would say.
What, the cat thing?
Yeah, I would say dumpster diving food would actually be better than the cat thing. Because dumpster dive food, most of it's usually still covered up and in cans and stuff.
Well, if it's in cans, that would be okay. I'm thinking about the people you see on TV who like get meat and fruit out of there. I would never do that unless I was dying. So I guess I should say unless I was dying, because you never know, I guess.
All right, number 4.
Yeah, well, Kelly says housing here in Colorado is unbelievably expensive. Yes, we're experiencing that too. And salaries are not keeping up. We bought in 2012, house as appreciated double. We were thinking for that reason of moving to somewhere cheaper and taking the money out of the house before the market goes down the next time.
Yeah.
And because other places that we've looked, the markets are pretty flat. Like if we lived in a pretty nice house in Kansas, and we sold it for half the price that this much smaller house here is on a much smaller piece of ground. And sorry, I didn't mean to take over. But if we were to go back there now, a house just like that would still be the same price as when we sold it. But this one is double.
Yeah.
So.
Jamie, just ban them. And so that's one of the things that we have considered is, and I think today, here's my newest idea today. So, after working on all these books to ship, my idea
Did you say newest idea?
Is we sell everything we own, and we take the money and we go live on an island for a year or two, and then we'll just start all over again.
And we do a video about how we live.
Mm-hmm.
Super cheap.
Yeah.
With a big stack of money that we sold this house for.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So,
Lindsay, no, we would not consider running a daycare. I think we've had our fill.
Maybe her. She's talking about her.
Oh, her.
Not
I'm sorry.
us.
I'm sorry. I didn't read the rest. If you're certified and you want to do it, I guess I would do that. Yeah.
I would do everything you can to get your house paid off as
Sorry.
fast as possible. I would. Because once your house is paid off, then I don't even think you should be saving for retirement until your house is paid off. Because once your house is paid off, then you don't have to earn as much money because your expenses are down and you're not throwing all that money at interest. So you don't have to worry about it. Okay, next thing we did. Now, I didn't think this was that big of a deal, but one day I was sitting here doing this, or not here, but in Kansas. I was sitting there doing it, and my neighbor came over, and she was horrified that I was doing this. And she's like, that is as cheap as it gets. And I'm like, what? So I was sitting.
You were doing what again? I must have said.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I was sitting and cutting open ketchup and mustard packets and pouring them into the ketchup and mustard containers. We'd had an overload, and I didn't want to throw them away. See, Izzy thinks that's great. Thank you very much. So I was cutting open the ketchup and mustard packets, and I was squirting them into all of the mayonnaise, ketchup, and mustard. And my neighbor was just horrified by that. I didn't think that was that big of a deal. But she seemed to think that that was pretty outrageous. So I don't know.
You don't have to give names, but who was it? The neighbor that was over there? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The funny thing is we don't go and grab a whole bunch of extra packets to do that with. They give us extra all the time, and they give lots of other people we know extra, and we're like, well, we're going to throw that away. You know, if we had something to do with the time that was going to bring us a lot more money, we would do that. But Tara does it at times where she's just, you know. Yeah.
Okay, so then the fifth thing that we did was we lived in the Hoopoe House.
Oh, that was one of the low points. That was a low point. I have to admit it.
Even eating the cat meat wasn't as low as living in the Hoopoe House.
Wait, when did you eat cat meat?
I just told that story. Were you not listening?
I was at the chiropractor.
You were just sitting here when I told it. Go back and watch the video.
Right,
you were too busy gazing into Izzy's eyes. Tasha's right. When every penny counts, you do what you need to say.
Yeah.
The thing about getting out of debt, we were realizing, man, every possible opportunity we could think of something. Because in those days, I used to say, you know, we have more time than money right now. And when we were in Idaho, it wasn't easy to get another job. And it was not a lot of internet stuff in those days either.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. The Hoopoe House. So you've seen
dun, 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 dun.
You've seen those hoarder shows, and after all the stuff is out of the house. Yeah.
So how did we end up there? Remind me, because people need to know that we didn't
Do you really want me to remind you?
I just want to say we didn't choose to live there, but we were looking for housing in Manhattan, Kansas.
Yeah.
And the housing was exorbitantly expensive. Mm-hmm. But there were some places that were less, and we did not have, in those days you couldn't look at places on the internet.
Yeah. So what happened was, this was before Realtor.com, Zillow, any of the housing things. So what happened was, we were moving back to Kansas from Idaho after Mike got laid off. And we found an ad in the newspaper for our house for rent. So I called the guy, talked to him about it. Oh yeah, the house is in great condition. Oh yeah, all of this. We didn't have cell phones back then, so they couldn't text me pictures, nothing like that. So I know I was wrong to do this, but I sent him a $500. I think we had $1,000 or $1,500. It was not very much. Like
your brother's on. He says, "Oh yeah, that house was bad."
See, even my brother says that house was bad. You know it was bad.
It's bad when Uncle Dave says it's bad.
Yeah.
Uncle Dave, who lived in an unfinished house for 15 years.
It was worse than Uncle Dave's house with no walls. And so I sent him a $500 deposit. That was our horrid move from Idaho to Kansas. We had packed everything up into the moving van, or had started to pack everything in the moving van. Found out the moving van was too small. We had BJ and Ellie, who were 1 and 2. And yeah, he wasn't so cute then. And Izzy's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah. He was a holy terror.
I bet.
No, he wasn't actually too bad. And then we had to sit in an empty house with a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old for 5 days waiting for a van to come, another U-Haul, because we were in Timbuktu, remember, in middle of nowhere, Idaho. You just don't have U-Hauls sitting around waiting. So
But
they
it was
had to
nice.
wait for one to come in. What was nice?
It was nice that we had friends at the local Grab Duster Airport that let us put our stuff in there.
Oh,
Airplane
yeah.
hangar.
So we unloaded everything into the Crop Duster Airport, which was across the street from our house. By the way, don't ever buy a house across the street from an airport. And waited 5 days. Then we started the horrible 3-day trip back to Kansas with Ellie and BJ, where upon getting an hour and a half into the drive, we find out that they have decided to completely rip the pavement off the road.
Oh, yeah. North of Boise.
Completely ripped the pavement off the road, and literally we were driving on this little one-way dirt road with a sheer cliff on the side with a moving van pulling the truck, me driving the car and towing the other car. It was a nightmare. It ended up Ellie getting sick. We had to take her to the hospital when we got to Colorado. Mike got in a huge fight with his parents. We finally left at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon to get to Kansas. We arrive at 1 a.m. My grandparents helped us drive out there, thankfully. Arrive at 1 a.m. to the Hoopoe House.
So Elizabeth asks, what is Hoopoe? She's from the UK.
Hoopoe is the name of the person who owned it.
I think there's some sort of slang in America. I hope we're not using it improperly.
Well, I hope not. But that was the last name of the person who owned it. And so we drive up.
But the slang is a negative thing, and so when we found out that was his name, we thought this is perfect to call the house this.
So we pull up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I am not exaggerating. We pull up. I was so exhausted. Ellie was horridly sick. There was a 6-foot pile of trash, both wide and tall, in the front yard that was nothing but stickers. We walk into the house. The toilet, the bathtub, and the sink were supposed to be white porcelain, and they were all black. I absolutely had a breakdown. I just could not take one more thing. It was absolutely horrible. So thankfully, my grandparents are military, and they were able to get a room on the base for all of us to stay in. And so we went, and that was, I think it was graduation weekend, because we couldn't even find a motel or anything. We couldn't find a hotel or anything. And so thankfully my grandparents, because it was a college town, my grandparents were able to get us a room to stay in. So we stayed in that room. The next morning we go to the house. The stove, we went to lift the top of the stove, you know, on the stoves that have the rings on them. I am not exaggerating. It was this deep, and it was completely full of dead mice and cockroaches. Go to open the refrigerator, and it was semi-clean, but when I started looking, there was cockroach stuff. There was cockroach stuff and mouse stuff all over this house. So then we're sitting there, and all of a sudden there's like flies all over the place. We're like, what in the world?
Wait, is this the day we got there? Or the next?
The next day. There were holes or gaps in between some of the doors and windows that were this big. Come to find out, there was like 8 inches of standing water in the crawl space underneath. Cockroaches, frogs, flies, everything was growing underneath there. It was a big mold pit. It was horrid. This was the most horrid place ever.
Did I hear the part that I found the most disgusting?
What?
Well, there was a certain smell in the house. Oh,
There was?
So the house the water came from a well. That was a sulfur well.
Oh, that, yeah.
And so the whole house smelled like rotten eggs.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a sulfur well. We couldn't even drink the water. And all the fixtures were like caked with this mineral stuff. It's like the person never cleaned the entire time they were living there. So we call the landlord and he's like, oh, well, they were supposed to clean it. I'm like, what? So what ended up happening was we ended up living in this nasty rat trap for 6 months. And why did we do it? Frankly, we didn't have the money to get a lawyer and fight this landlord. You know, we should have, but he was out of the city, so he wasn't under the housing law jurisdictions. He was in the country. It wasn't a country house, but it was a suburb out in the country. So there was really no recourse we could take unless we hired a lawyer.
But he had a reputation as a very upstanding guy there, and we were thinking, you know, this is not right for you to be like this and treat people this way. And it's funny because it wasn't like a dangerous neighborhood, but it was the kind of neighborhood where people would have midnight move. Like we had, in fact, we
had a neighbor that did a midnight move, and we made $300 off the stuff that we got from there that they left before they came and took everything out of their house.
So yeah, so in the middle of the night, well, they told us we're going to leave in the middle of the night. And we're like, okay. So we wouldn't do that, but all right.
She said, we're leaving tonight. You can take anything you want from the house. They can't have possession of it for another 12 hours. So if you can get in there, or we'll leave it unlocked so you can get in there and you can take whatever you want.
There was nothing that belonged to the owner of the house.
No,
It was just the people's personal items.
Yeah.
So like we got a couple of, actually we made more than $300. I sold 2 Pink Floyd CDs for $300 that they just left. But in those days we were like, oh yeah, this is like dumpster diving. So, and these people were the kind of people that spend a lot of money, but then don't have the money for the needs. And so yeah, we did that. But we were kind of a little bit mortified because I was a little mortified because I came home the next day and BJ had a little car and he had another car that he was putting on the back of it. And Tara said, oh yeah, that's because they came and towed both of their cars this morning. And I was like,
it's pretty funny.
Okay, well. It wasn't a dangerous neighborhood, but we did get out of there as quick as we possibly could.
And Mom said, I'm not exaggerating. Actually, I'm giving you guys the pretty picture. I truly am not exaggerating. I had a 1 and 2-year-old that I could barely let them outside in the yard. I was horrified to let them out in the yard because I didn't know what was going to be in the yard that would hurt them. And finally, we did get it cleaned up and all that. But
we niced it up a lot.
It was absolutely disgusting. The flies, we could never get the flies killed. The flies just kept coming and coming and coming. And I remember my grandma sitting there and she was just swatting and swatting. And I was like, Grandma, just don't even waste your energy. It's not going to stop. You might as well just stop trying. And it was just horrid. And that's partly, the Hoopoe House is partly why I have pretty much zero tolerance for people's excuses. If you guys have watched our Penny Pinch and Mama series and the things that I went through growing up, and then the Hoopoe House and us living in Idaho, that's why I really don't have any patience for excuses. I'm sorry. I have lived it all. And I have been there.
Oh, that was not the worst kind of situation you've ever lived in.
It stinks. It absolutely stinks. But you do what you have to do, and you don't charge your credit cards to do it. So that's why when I have these middle-class people coming to me whining about how they can't buy anything but a brand new car because what if it breaks down and I'm stranded on the road? Oh, that's so dangerous. Oh!
What if I'm stranded without my phone?
Oh, my word. Grow up. Seriously. I'm sorry. And you guys know, I have no tolerance. I have no patience for it. So if you're going to come to me whining, don't expect to get a sympathy, whatever. And
so Roberta says this made you stronger. It's true. Those experiences do make you stronger. And Cindy said, you must be very grateful for what you have now. You know, we have to remind ourselves to be grateful because it's just a habit that people have to think, why do we have this problem? What's wrong with it? And we do that too. Like, we don't really like the neighborhood we're in very much, but we keep reminding ourselves, man, you know what? All of us in America, the homeless guy in America, is better off than 95% of the world. And we have to remind ourselves, man, we're not the homeless guy in America, and we're in America. So yeah, but
my brother said she has very little tolerance for excuses. I've tried them all and she still smacks me upside the head. That's true. That's true.
one thing somebody said, Luann said I would have used the rent to fix up the place. You know, we did let the landlord know on many occasions that we were unhappy with the situation and the way that he had kind of done that. We were in a legal contract, so we were supposed to be paying the rent unless we wanted to go to court with him. But what Tara did is she negotiated with him, hey, you know what, we're going to still pay you the rent, but we want to pay to do work to fix up the house. So we did some of the rent. We got discounted for repairing things like painting and repairs and basic stuff. And it wasn't spectacular, but it did, us being there, improve the house a lot. It probably went downhill the moment we left.
The house was more valuable than when we were there. And then that landlord had the audacity to call me and threaten me when we were moving out of that house. The people saw the gaps that were this big in the doors and the windows. And she said, does the landlord, she asked me, I was showing the house for him.
The bad move, mister.
She had the audacity, or he had the audacity to call and threaten me when she said, does he take care of this place? And I said, no, he really doesn't. And if I were you, I would run from this house and not rent from him. And the landlord threatened to take me to court because I told them the truth about this place. He did.
No.
Like, you just do what you need to do. And one thing that
I told him that, I said, you go right ahead.
One thing that I had learned in the past, before I met Tara, we implemented this every time at a rental, especially when it was a questionable situation. We would take a video camera, and you should know this if you're renting. We would take a video camera and walk through the entire place with the video camera. As we were walking out the door the last time, we'd open all the cabinets, we'd move all the doors, show everything on video. And the reason we did that is because we knew people like him, they would say, oh, you destroyed something, or you didn't leave it in good shape when you left.
Yeah.
So we've done that a lot in the past when we were renting.
Or like the one time before we were married, I was living in a little cabin in the mountains over the garage of my landlord. I went to Kansas and I came back, and in my cabinet was a blanket that I didn't own, and in my VCR was a movie that I didn't own. And apparently my landlord, while I was gone, was allowing her friends to stay in my apartment while I was gone. And I was paying for all the water and electricity and everything. And so after that, after that happened, this was like a month before we were getting married. We were moving into the apartment. I had moved into the apartment. We were going to get married. So I had moved into this apartment, and Mike said, you know, I think we should videotape this. And thankfully we did, because even she was threatening to not give me my deposit back because I had left ashes in the wood stove, a few ashes in the wood stove.
You know, Noah's Ark, I think we probably have the videos somewhere still because I never deleted them.
Yeah.
But we're not keeping them on purpose. It's just...
Yes, to family, you can. Go for it. Here, you ready? Here, let's give them a thumbnail.
What
Ready?
for?
They want a picture of us in our hats for their show. Okay, is that a good enough thumbnail?
All right.
Okay.
We'll go.
There you go. So, and guys, we're just giving you the top there.
Christine, did you ever find where the body was buried in the Hoopoe House? You know what?
Yeah.
It was probably in the basement under. Did you talk about
Crawl
the frogs?
space. Yeah. Oh.
So, actually, I wasn't listening to everything because I was looking at comments. But one time there was a tornado warning in our county in Kansas, and so I was like, "Oh, wow, we need to find out where we can go," because we hadn't been there long enough to know. So there was a crawl space under the house, and there was nobody that had a basement anywhere. So I thought, let's go see if we can get in the crawl space. So I take off the crawl space thing. I go down there. There's like water 6 inches deep, and there are frogs like this big. And I was thinking, no wonder the place is all nasty upstairs. Well, then I looked and I realized when he put the house there, in Kansas, you're supposed to anchor the house to the foundation. There were no anchors anchoring that house to the foundation.
Yeah, so we were
like,
living on a wing and a prayer in that house, literally, because there was a time when there was a time when a tornado was right by our house. And I remember we went into the bathroom, but we were like, you know what? God is going to have to take care of us because this house is not bolted to the foundation. It's going to fall apart if a big wind comes by. And it was pretty scary. And what was even worse was...
I was outside looking to see if it was coming.
Yeah, probably would have been safer for us to get in our car and try to outrun it than to stay in that house. It really probably would have been.
Which is very not recommended in Kansas, but in that case it might have been.
Okay, Ellie's taking a picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Because Buster's cute. Well, okay.
Oh, because Buster's cute.
Oh.
But let's see. There was one thing I was going to say about that house. Let's see. We were talking about the crawl space and the nasty water and.
Oh, one time it's funny because the well smelled like sulfur, and I used to bring. I worked at the county government there, and I used to bring bottles and fill them up with water before I left work, like 3 gallons a day, and at some point we started also buying the filtered water from the store. Because we'd take those bottles and it was like 20 cents to fill up one of those bottles. So one time I thought, I wonder if there's something dangerous in the well. I don't know. Because the kids were bathing in it and BJ and Ellie would sometimes drink it. And so I went and I put a pool tablet down there with one of those chlorine pool tablets. And the smell totally went away for about 2 months. And then it came back again. But
yeah,
in theory, the water wasn't dangerous. But I was concerned about the kids drinking it.
Okay, so just so you guys...
In the bathtub
our
when we weren't giving it to
house that I forgot we had these pictures. Our Nez Perce house that we paid $8,000 for somebody to get rid of. There's the Nez Perce house. Wasn't it cute?
We loved it.
There's my little Volkswagen that I had painted when I was 16. Grandpa painted that for me.
First house.
And then...
What's bad about having to pay $8,000 for it is we only paid $27,000 for it in the first place.
Yeah. Here's Ellie in front of the Hoopoe House. Wasn't she cute?
She makes that thing look awesome.
Wasn't she cute? And let's see.
Wanda says a tornado might have helped the house. Yes.
Oh, it would have. Exactly. Yeah, it would have. And, well, I don't know if you can really
Well,
see
so
there.
the people that are asking, I guess people are saying hoopty is the actual term, but...
Oh, is it?
I'm not very familiar with the slang, so I hope we're not like insulting somebody.
We don't have a picture of the Hoopoe House.
But
wow,
I have a picture somewhere.
We tried to erase it from our memories.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I had a picture somewhere. But in America, that like you talk about like a hoopty car or something. It's like a car that's held together with baling wire and coat hangers and duct tape, and it's got 8 different colors, and it's all rusted out and barely making all kinds of noise as it goes down the road. And in this particular house, the owner's name was Hoopy.
Yeah.
And so we just started calling it the Hoopoe House because we thought of like the parallel between him owning it and living in a car like that.
So there's BJ and Ellie. That was like a day or 2 after we moved there. Aren't they cute? That's all we have of the Hoopoe House. We didn't take a picture of the outside. Huh.
We probably just threw it away so we could
recover. We tried to block it out of our memory. It was horrible. So the point of that is, guys, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to save money. And so when people say, well, she's so angry, or, well, you need to have a little tolerance. Oh, well, you need to not be so judgmental. I'm sorry. I have actually lived it. I have no patience for your excuses. Zip, zero, zilch. None at all. None. I have lived through it all. I could probably live in my car nicer than some of these places that we've lived in. So the thing is, you need to stop making excuses and just do what you need to do to pay off your debt and get yourself situated with an emergency fund so that you don't keep having all of these horrible emergencies all the time when you have no money.
An emergency is never a reason to borrow money. We've realized. We used to say we'll only borrow in an emergency. Oh, we have to get rid of the house. We'll borrow. I don't know. In that case, I'm not sure what else we could have done, but to get rid of it because we didn't have the money. But but there were things where we'd say, well, we'll only borrow if it's a medical thing or if it's we need a new car or something. We realized as long as you say we'll only borrow if, those circumstances are always going to happen.
Yeah.
And you have to think, what are we going to do if this happens without borrowing?
Yeah. Okay, guys, give us your comments and questions real quick, and we'll finish up with those.
One other thing while Tara's looking through the comments, you know, if you really want to get out of debt, it's important to think about taking drastic action that's out of your comfort zone. The thing is, if you're in a great financial situation, if you're living a really high standard of living, but you're upside down, then you may not have to cut back as much. In our situation, we had virtually no income, and we were trying to manage that and also manage the house. And so we were doing more desperate things. The thing is, at the very base level, you need a place to live. You need like a house, a shelter, and some food and nuts and clothes, and that's about it. Everything else is an extra. And the thing is, most of us like me now, I would really not want to go back to that. But the thing is, that's what we, at the time, that worked for us in order to get out of the debt. And that's the reason why we can have the benefit now of living in a much nicer place without that debt.
Mm-hmm. My brother said, yes, my sister is angry. Did I tell you about the time she smacked me upside the head?
Which time?
Oh, stop.
I bet you were glad when she got married, David, because now she does that to me instead of you.
Oh, whatever. Have I ever smacked you at all? Ever?
Ah! Witnesses! So, yeah, we have shared those experiences, Carol. I know, although sometimes I think, man, it sounds like we're making up stories because some of them are so unusual. Like, because the house after that was better, but still had its own issues. And partly it was just we were not in the good house market, really.
Yeah. Mom said the smell was bad enough in the Hoopoe House. She wouldn't have been surprised if there was a body. It smelled horrid from that sulfur well. It was really, really bad. Yeah. I don't know. It was bad. So, I don't know, but, so those are the 5 of the outrageous things that we have done. Katie, what's one of the lowest, cheapest things you used to do that you would never do again?
I wouldn't say never. I don't think there's anything we've ever done we would never do again. Just we would prefer not to do a lot of things.
One of the lowest, cheapest things that we've done that I would never do again.
I'd prefer never to live in my car again. But I would if I needed to.
I don't know. Sorry. I can't think of anything. Can you?
Things that we would never do again. Well, I mean, there are a lot of things that, like, for instance, I used to do all the car repairs on our cars, and I would do it if we were in a highly desperate situation, but I absolutely hate working on cars. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
And so...
But if we didn't have the money, you would do it.
I would still do it, but I'd have to be in a real desperate situation. And that's what I was saying is, and I think everyone should be in this mindset that there's nothing that we've done that I would not do again if times were desperate. And part of the thing about that that's cool is it's liberating to think, I can do it. I know how to do. Like when we were living in Idaho, we were cutting our own. Well, first of all, we went down to the burn pile to cut wood, but then we were going out into the woods and cutting dead trees. And we learned to be super self-sufficient. And the thing is, I don't really want to, like a lot of our friends are trying to be as, disconnected as possible. And I think that's fine. They want to do that. But for me, that's just too much work. Yeah. But if it was a desperate situation and we needed to be able to do that, we can. Yeah. And so the confidence of knowing we can do that is one of the benefits. But I wouldn't choose to do those things, but we would do them if we needed to.
So Kayla said, what would you have done while you were in that situation if someone would have said, I have no sympathy for you? How would you have received that? Oh, we've had people say that.
Which situation? I missed that.
Living in the Hoopoe House. When I said, I don't have any patience or tolerance for people who are whining when they're in this situation. We were in that situation. People did say those things to us, and I just ignored it. Well, it was our choice to move to that house without looking at it. It was Michael's choice to be earning that job at that time. Those were our choices. He took the best job that he could, but we didn't blame anyone else for our circumstances. They were ours. So I would have.
You don't usually tell people in that situation that you have no patience for them or whatever. It's people that say, between my husband and me, we make $300,000 a year, and there's $150,000. We just don't know where it goes. But it's just so terrible because we can barely make ends meet, and we just don't know what we're gonna do. And that's when she says, I have absolutely no patience. Because in that situation,
You're just making excuses.
the people that say that are living in such a high standard and they don't want to give up anything. Like, I don't want to have to cut back my cable to the next tier down. I don't want to do anything because I won't have my lifestyle the way it is. Those are the ones that she says, I don't have any patience with you. If people tell us that they're in a situation like that, I don't think you've ever told anyone.
No, and the thing is, when you're in that situation, you do the next thing to improve your situation.
But that's true. You have to not just whine about your situation. You have to keep
working yourself forward. So stop focusing on what's going wrong and focus on what can I do to get myself out of this and propel myself forward. Does that mean selling this X item so that I can have an emergency fund so when my car breaks down, I don't have to put it on my credit card? That's what you have to do. Linda, if you won $100,000, how would you live differently, or would you just save it for retirement? I would pay off the house. There's no question on that.
We have a lot less than that on our mortgage still, but
yeah,
we would pay that off first.
Well, so
then we would.
So we don't even have that much left on our mortgage. So I would pay off our house. I would pay off our house, and then with the rest of it, what would we do? I would buy me a car, because I definitely need a car now. I'm driving Ellie's old beater that's worth about $500 right now, but I would only get like a $5,000 or $6,000 car. I wouldn't be getting no $30,000 or $40,000 car. And then the rest we would probably just put into savings, or save it to put it down for a down payment for a better house. If we decide to keep the business and keep doing that, then it would really be nice if we could get a house where we have a studio. So probably put it down for something like that.
But if all the stuff that we feel like we need, like the expanding the business potential and getting her a car was all done, we probably would invest in something more permanent, like real estate. Like we've looked at, we've thought about things like Airbnb and other stuff like that. But there are things that are more permanent than that. We'd probably work our way into it in the same way we worked our way into this, from nothing but, a book that we could do on a barely functioning computer in our little house in Idaho.
Yeah.
To get to here.
Yeah.
So, and I think when you do things, if you take the next step, if, like Tara was saying, if you look, instead of complaining if you have a really bad situation, instead of saying, oh, what a terrible situation I'm in, because it's kind of self-fulfilling. You'll stay in the terrible situation. If you look for how can we improve this situation, and that's another thing. If you say, there's just nothing I can do, you've decided already you want to be poor. If you say, what can I do? I don't know what I can do, but what can I do? If you take steps in that direction, you'll be surprised where it takes you. Because a lot of the things that we have or we do that surprise people when they hear, we only can because of taking one step at a time in that direction of, hey, what's the next best step? And sometimes those steps were in the wrong direction, but you learn.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone has $100,000 and you want to give it to us, we are more than happy to take it.
We could go on the video and say, here's what we're doing with it, and people could see the experience.
So, okay. So anyway, those are the top 5 things that we did that were outrageous to save money. That maybe explains a little bit more things that we do and why Tara is not patient with any of those things.
Oh, Linda says baby stepping. You are right. It's baby stepping to just say, what's the next step for me? And you know what's funny? Just like paying off debt, it kind of snowballs because each little step gets to be a bigger step and a bigger step as you go. But you have to take that step, and there was a book that you had called Just Enough Light for the Step I'm On. And I don't really know exactly what the content of the book was, but it's like that, We don't know which way to go, but this looks like the best option at the moment.
Oh, yeah, that was a really good book. If you guys need a good inspirational book, that was a good book. Just Enough Light for the Step You're On. I think it was by Stormy O'Martin, I think.
Karen asks to recap the 5, please. I'm having internet issues and missed them.
1 was dumpster diving. 2 was we lived in a horrid Hoopoe House, rat-infested, horrid house. Mouse-infested,
We
not
killed
rat.
all the mice immediately.
Mice.
Right
Mouse
away.
infested, not rat. Mouse infested. We ate meat that the cat
Sorry,
had
animal
meat.
lovers. We killed all the mice.
Yeah.
We murdered them.
Oh, get over it. We put ketchup packets in our big bottles when I had too many, and then we paid someone $8,000 to take a house off our hands.
Imogene wants to know if we plan for the upcoming year at the end of the year as a family.
No, I don't even plan for the next day.
I was going to say, you've seen the show, right? No, I know you haven't. I'm just joking.
No.
But Tara's not that much of a planner. I like to, and when I've looked back at times where I've just kind of written goals that I think we should have, I realize later I look back and we've actually accomplished them.
Yeah.
But Tara doesn't like to plan that way. She just likes to take what looks like the best option at the moment. So
Yeah.
it does. Oh, hey, one thing, we didn't talk about the books. Oh, we did talk about the books. Should we remind everybody? So we, earlier in the week, if you hadn't heard, I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, did we sell more books than we have? And we totally freaked out. I totally freaked out. Tara was probably not freaking out. But anyway, we announced that we had sold more books than we had. But we discovered there was a math error because I are a college graduate. And and we actually have books left. We did not sell them all out. So everyone that bought can have them. And there are more
If
left
you
if anyone wants
ordered,
one.
your order will be fulfilled.
For sure.
Hopefully, we hope they will be shipped by Monday. We have probably 300 orders sitting around the disaster called our home at the moment. And another thing, a couple of people were talking about paying off your house. I just want to say one thing about paying off your house. You never know when something is going to happen that you're not going to have the income that you have. And I would say paying off your house is a priority for every single person. You should be completely debt-free, and I mean completely, including your mortgage. Your car payment, no student loans, your mortgage, nothing. You are not going to be financially secure until you do that. And you never know when you're going to need your house to be paid off. So like growing up, Mom worked and paid off our house. And I think it was like 2 or 3 months, not very long, after she had paid it off, we became ill. We got what we thought was the flu, and we never got better again. And then she couldn't work. And if we would have had a house payment, we would have been homeless because she could not work because we were so sick. You never know when your husband's going to fall off the ladder, hang in the Christmas lights, and be paralyzed or disabled or dead and not have life insurance. You never know when there's going to be a car accident. You never know if somebody's going to have a stroke. You don't know what's going to happen. And it's very foolish to be going out to eat to lunch all the time, buying brand new cars and not getting your house paid off. And then you get in these circumstances where someone has a major emergency illness, somebody dies in the family. You never know. And if you get your house and all of your debt paid off, then you can at least have that security that you don't have to pay the rent. You will just have to come up with your expenses for maintaining it, that kind of thing. So
yeah, and so you can minimize that. Well, unless you have a house that's too fancy for you.
yeah, but even with your Cindy, hold on. Even Cindy, with your property taxes, if you live in a state, that's why we're being so careful where we move. That's why when we looked at Spokane, we weren't picking Spokane over someplace like Wyoming, because you can choose to have lower property taxes and move if you need to have lower property taxes. So don't let that be an excuse. Yeah, you have to pay it, but paying $150 or $200 a month for insurance and property taxes is way better than paying $1,000 or $1,500 for a house payment.
Well, and there are some places, like there was a house that we really, really liked in Wisconsin, but we looked and the house payment or the taxes on the house were like $500 a month or something.
Yeah.
We were thinking, when we pay off the house completely, we don't want to still have a house payment of $500 a month plus. I mean, obviously we have to pay the insurance if we want it covered if the house burns down, but we don't want to have to pay that much in tax if we don't have to. And a lot of places where we are, where we've looked, it's more like $100 a month. I think Spokane was like $700 or $800 a month after you pay off the house for the taxes. So we look at that. But the thing is, if right now you're living there, you're making a ton of money, you can afford it, you can always sell that house and go to a place where the taxes are lower if you get desperate.
Yeah, and Mom said, you guys, okay, I'm looking at the comments and I'm seeing excuses coming up still, guys. But let me just say, Mom paid off her house earning, and she just said this, Mom paid off her house earning minimum wage. She did it. You can do it, guys, even on a low income. And so, yeah, anyway, it can be done.
Amy T says, just like everyone loan, when you buy a house, you're signing the bank saying that you will pay it off. So I don't get why more people don't plan to pay off the house completely. One of the things about that is you can have 90% of the mortgage paid off, but if you miss enough payments, the bank can take it away from you, even though you own that, and cash out your money because you still owe them. They have a lien on it. So I would rather pay that off.
Yeah.
Of course, you can sell it and not let it go.
My brother says, no more excuses, sister. Paint those walls. I like my festive yellow. He doesn't like my festive. My brother has no variety in his life. My brother loves Dr. Pepper, Superman, and brown walls. That's what he likes.
Yeah, not sure about that. But I like your house, Uncle Dave.
Yep.
Yeah, my husband wants to move out of, or I want to move out of Illinois, but hubby refuses. Sorry. In our case, I think there are more places I would be willing to live than I think are okay for Tar to live because of the heat and humidity. But I think we're on the same page as far as we don't want to go to places where we have to pay a huge amount in tax because that money just goes away and you'll never see it again.
Yeah. Wow. So Two Family Homestead looked and Social Blade is projecting we'll hit 100,000 subscribers by December.
Whoa,
and
cool.
I will be here to celebrate it.
So Wanda says you can lose your house for not paying taxes too, and that's true.
You can, but it's easier.
But let's say you have a mortgage, and like $1,000 of it is $1,000 is your mortgage, but $200 a month is your taxes, and the rest of it is interest to the bank. And the principal, if you pay it off, then you still have to pay the $200 a month because of where you're living. And that's usually doable. There are ways you can make that, almost anyone can make that work, to just pay that amount in tax. Now, of course, if you live in a place where the taxes are really high, a lot of states have really high taxes, then that's part of living in that place.
But here's something that we figured in this whole moving thing. So I sat and figured when we've been looking around the country at different places to move. One of the places was Wisconsin, and they have lower priced houses, but they have their taxes are like 5 times the amount of Colorado's. And as I actually sat and figured, and if I bought a house in Wisconsin or I bought a house here, and let's say we bought a $350,000 house in Wisconsin, or we bought a $600,000 house in Colorado, because the taxes are so high in Wisconsin, it would have only cost us over 40 years, it would only have cost us $50,000 more to live in Colorado in a $600,000 house. Think about that. That is perspective. That is only about $100 a month more to live in Colorado in a house twice the price.
The thing about that is, if you get to retirement age, you can sell the Colorado house and move to a cheap state. But if you've been paying it all in taxes, you can sell the house and you don't get very much money for that. So that's always been a thought. And somebody asked a good question. Carrie, how do you find out what the tax rate is somewhere where you don't live? So
you can look it up online.
Well, the thing is, tax rates are different for towns and counties and cities. So each house would have a different tax rate. So like if you live just outside of a city, your tax will be lower because in the city, there's city tax on top. There's like state tax and federal, well, not usually, well. Can I give her the short version? Yeah. Well, anyway, I was just going to say, you can go to like
Let me give you the short version.
realtor.com or...
Yeah, so how I find it out, because I've been looking all over the place, I go to realtor.com, Zillow.com, or Redfin.com. I look at houses in that area. So let's say I'm looking at a $350,000 house. I go and look. It has tax history at the bottom. I click on there. I see how much the taxes are for that particular house. And in some places, a house might be just outside the city limits, so the taxes are less than inside the city limits. So how I do it the easy way, look up the neighborhood or the city that you're looking for.
And look at a house that's
Look
there.
at a house. It's in your price range. See how much it is. At the bottom, it says tax and sell history. That's how you do it. Okay?
And also, it's important to know, because as we're thinking about moving, at the moment, we're not looking real hard. We're not looking at all at the moment. But property tax is more of a concern to us than income tax or sales tax, although we don't want to be in a place that's huge, any of those taxes. But the thing is, if there is an income, some places have no income tax, but if there is an income tax, if you have a financial catastrophe or whatever, you're not going to have any income. So you won't be paying any tax on that. Mm-hmm. But if you own a house, you're always going to be paying property tax. Mm-hmm. And so we look at property tax as the most important consideration. And then like sales tax, you can choose not to buy stuff. And a lot of places, there's no sales tax on food. So you would be able to choose not to pay most of the sales tax because you don't buy things that are taxable.
Yes.
So we kind of think about that.
Okay, one last question, and we really have to go. Okay, Julie, how much do you spend in gas getting back and forth when you live out of the city limits? Wouldn't it cost more than the tax difference? Yes, figure that out. Sometimes it's cheaper and sometimes it's more expensive. You have to do the work to figure it out. Guys, here's the thing.
In our case, the gas would be cheaper.
Okay, here's the thing. You have to do the work for some of this stuff, guys. You can't just ask someone, and I'm not specifically blaming, what was that person's name? Julie. I'm not specifically blaming Julie. It just reminded me of like all the emails we always get about this. People want me to give them answers. They will email me and say, how do I make gravy? Now, I appreciate you seeing us as an authority figure and that we know what we're doing. But Google it yourself, and we'll probably be at the top. Just do a search on our website. You have to do the same thing with housing stuff. Figure out, do the math. Say if I go 30 miles each way back and forth to work every day, it's going to be X amount. My taxes at this house are X amount. My taxes in the city next to my work would be X amount. What's the difference? Is the difference worth paying more if it does cost more, and it doesn't always cost you more? In Denver, even though we have to drive all over the place, it is a lot cheaper for us to live in the suburbs 40 miles away from downtown Denver than to live downtown Denver if Mike had a job there.
I would hate to drive it, but
it would still be a lot cheaper.
It would be cheaper,
so.
Definitely a lot cheaper. And that's the thing is that the gas, where we are at least, and where most of the places we've been, I think it was cheaper to drive than to pay the higher tax.
Yeah. It's, even when Mike was living, even when we were living in Idaho, and even when we were living in Idaho and he was only earning $15 an hour, at the time it was cheaper for him to commute 100 miles each way. He drove 200 miles every day to work for months because it was cheaper than us moving up there, and we could not afford to do it. So until you have to figure those things out. And then it got to the point where we were able to afford to move up there. So then we started looking to try and do that. So
actually, one quick thing about that. I did not like driving that far. And we kind of arranged it so that we didn't have the kids yet, and I was able to drive up on Monday and drive back on Thursday because they really liked me and I could work 4 10-hour days. But it was a choice that we partly made because I made a lot more money. I made 3 times as much money driving that far to pay off the mortgage on our little house. So even though we lost money on that house, it was a lot better decision for us to make a ton more money when we had a tiny, tiny mortgage. Mm-hmm. That was, I mean, I say that in perspective, it's not a lot of money now, But in those days, it was huge for us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Julie, I don't know what you mean. Julie girl, I don't know what you mean. What do you buy a house and put it in your company name? I don't know.
Some companies,
Maybe she's
some kinds of
saying,
companies you
should
can do that. But
Well, I guess I don't know what the question is. But anyway, Amy, we're a generation of expecting everyone to do it for us rather than to think for ourselves. And I could say that because I grew up with the tech generation. Thankfully, my grandparents are a bigger influence. That's the problem. Nobody thinks for themselves. And
don't listen to what the experts say. Do the math yourself.
No one takes responsibility for themselves either. That really hacks me off. You expect everyone else to take responsibility for you. Like, and, oh my goodness, we gotta go. But it really does not sit well with me when on our Save on Groceries groups, people recommend going to the food bank as a good solution to people's grocery problems. That is all right for an emergency situation once in a while. But if you have to go more than once a year, you have a problem and you need to get it fixed. And I really have a problem when people are not responsible for their decisions. Okay? Yeah, that's a whole nother show. I'm super tired today, so I just won't go there. But people don't want to do the work and they don't want to take responsibility. And it is about time people started doing both. You're not going to get out of debt if you don't do either one. So
Getting a lot of people saying, preach it, Tara. Amen. I've had that talk with my teens so many times.
yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Mainly just, you need to do the math. It's good to listen to what people say, but then you should verify. Like think, okay, how much do I use these things and how much is the cost and how much is it going to cost me if we do it this way?
Yeah.
How much is it going to cost me if we do it this other way?
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. So anyway.
Get
all
it
right,
together,
guys.
people. Am I right?
Oh, man. Get it together. All right. Go check out our Dining on a Dime cookbook. It is in stock, the 20th anniversary edition, but we do still have some of the classic edition left if you want a slightly less or a slightly cheaper version of Dining on a Dime. We still have our classic edition and our 20th anniversary. Your orders, if you have ordered for any of our sales since October 15th, I am working on shipping them.
Because I'm doing the 25 days of Christmas videos.
Yeah, that was a big mistake. So
we're going to do the 8 days of 25 days of Christmas.
I'm thinking about changing the Christmas, I don't know, dumping the 25 days of Christmas candies. Please like, subscribe, and share. Your orders are on the way. Thank you for joining us.
Have an awesome night. Cut. Oh, Dave's not there.
You gotta go.
Dave's in bed. All right. Thanks, everyone. Okie dokie.
And don't forget to subscribe, guys. Thank you.
Dun, 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 dun.